afternoon. Whoops, everything's shaking. Sorry. I should like wait for everything to stop before I hit live, and I did not. Good afternoon. Hope you're having a great Wednesday wherever you are. I am enjoying some time before the rain comes in. And here we go. I am going. Sure, she's coming in just a second. As soon as technology starts to cooperate with me. Hey!
Hello, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Um, Remind me, I know you're in the Pacific Northwest, correct?
Yes, Seattle.
Seattle. Okay, Seattle specifically. I wasn't sure actually if it was Washington or Oregon, but I knew it was up there somewhere.
They all run together.
Yeah.
Mountains and
Yeah,
water.
my sister used to live in Port Angeles, like, real, up towards the top of Washington,
Yeah.
just below Canada. And so I visited her a couple of times up there. And so I found Seattle to be fun and lovely, and I would like to spend more time there. But I have to admit, like, they didn't get enough sunlight. I love my sun.
No, we definitely the winters are dark. The winters are
Yeah.
dark for sure. But the summers, like, it doesn't get full dark in like at high summer until like 10:30 at night. It is
Yeah,
so cool. I love it.
I know that would be really cool. I remember one of the times that I visited her was the week between Christmas and New Year's, and like the sun never like got like overhead. Like noon, the sun was still like it was the weirdest thing.
Oh yeah. I think it's awesome. So I'm from North Carolina, which is
Mhm.
considerably farther south than
Right.
Seattle. But the sun, the distance it travels in the sky throughout the year is like nothing I've ever seen. So I live at the marina, right? So we can see in the summer, the sun actually sets way over this way.
Wow.
And then in the winter, it sets way over that way. And it has to do that journey in the
Mhm.
6 months between the solstices
Right.
really fast. And so you like daily almost you can watch the sun
Mhm.
setting in a different place every day. It's so cool. It's so cool.
It
But
is cool.
yeah.
Well, that's not what we're talking about today, but I still find it fascinating. But I will introduce myself just for people who are watching, then I'll ask you to introduce yourself. I'm Dr. Heather Nelson, vocologist. I live and work in Springfield, Missouri, and online all over the place. So if you are, nowhere near Springfield, we can still work together. And my favorite thing is to take pedagogy stuff and break it down into little bite-sized chunks and make it understandable and applicable to your studio. In fact, I'm going to release, as soon as I get done with this and get it edited, I'll release a new 5-minute pedagogy video about being an evidence-based teacher in your own studio, what that means and why maybe you don't even have to do it. So that's me. Liz, would you mind to introduce yourself? Where you are? Well, we know you're in Seattle, but like, who do you teach? What do you do, and why?
Yes, I'm Dr. Liz Fraser. I am a Salty Voice teacher. I love teaching all levels, but my biggest focus is on teaching small online classes, 3 to 4 students of beginning adult students. This has been something that I've started doing in the last year, and it is so much fun for me and for the clients. And I find that my clients actually improve or grow a lot more quickly when they are in community with other singers. So it's been a really cool journey, and I'm really enjoying that. And then I also do a lot of body work type stuff. I partner with Abby Halpin of Forte Performance PT. She's a doctor of physical therapy that specializes in working with singers and musicians. And she and I work together to help singers find what works for their bodies, because we're all different.
Mhm.
So
That
yeah,
is true. Yes.
a little bit of everything. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I love that you teach beginners.
yeah, I was going to say
Oh,
people
sorry.
can take from anywhere, just like you. Like online is one of the most amazing benefits of the pandemic if we can
Right.
talk silver lining for a little bit. I mean, the pandemic's,
Hmm.
I'm ready for it to be over. And I love that it has made something like online teaching so accessible. So
Hmm.
I'm done now.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I've mentioned it a couple of times on like when I've talked with other teachers, like this, but like the pandemic, I agree it sucks. There's like, it's the worst. But
Yes.
like it's totally changed my business, like totally changed it, both out of choice and out of necessity. Um, and so I had to put my brave pants on a lot faster than I would have probably otherwise.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like this would have been so much harder even just like 3 years ago. We wouldn't have had the technology in place already to have been able to, especially as voice teachers, to transition so quickly and really so effectively. I mean, I think we all went to Zoom for a while, and Zoom isn't the best, but Zoom still works if that's what you're using. You can still, I still totally use Zoom,
All right.
or whatever you're using. But the technology is getting better and better all the time. But if we were trying to live out a pandemic, like in like 5 years ago, it would have been so much different. So again, silver lining, I guess, is timing, technology, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank goodness for technology. It was actually a pretty, if I'm honest, like when everyone's favorite word, pivoted at the beginning of the pandemic, it was pretty seamless. I mean, there were a few
Hmm.
things we had to deal with, but you and I are both in SECO. We've been doing the Zoom thing for a while, so we know. And
Right.
SECO's easy cooperative with the FAB, Michelle Marquardt Deveau.
Hmm.
But switching to Zoom for lessons just wasn't that big of a deal. At least for me. I'm in
Hmm.
Seattle. We got hit pretty early, but
True.
um,
Yeah.
so it's anyway. This is not what we're here to talk about. Woo! It all devolves back to the pandemic.
It does. But yeah, I'm ready for that to be over like any day now, like tomorrow would be nice. But anyway, so you have already mentioned it, but you live on an actual boat, like an actual boat.
Yes.
Um, I have so many questions about that, but um, like my first question is like this, especially since you do body work, how have you noticed that living on a boat that like is not on solid ground, how has that changed your body awareness, and how has that changed your singing? I'm just curious.
Oh, how fun. Well, so I don't like I teach in a studio in the
Okay.
Green Lake area of Seattle. That's where I am right now. But really, honestly, what's really changed is that I always have a bruise somewhere because I'm always running into things.
I'm on solid ground, and I'm not that way.
Well, it's I've just kind of accepted it. Um, the steps into the main cabin and then into like the salon because everything to the cabin are really steep. So
Mhm.
I just have to be a lot more careful. I slipped quite a few times.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, but there are also like hand holdings everywhere because it's a boat and yeah,
Nice.
it's a steep learning curve, but I kind of love it.
Mhm.
As long as I have a place to go. I've never been one that wanted to work from home. Like I like going into work and then having my office separate. So I kind of love it. Like every once in a while, I wake up at night and like the boat's just moving.
Mhm.
It's like a big waterbed. And
Yeah,
the
I love being out on the water when I'm able to. There's some nice lakes around here, and I used to say that when I grew up and had enough money, I would like buy a boat and hire somebody just to drive it around because I just want like I want to gawk while I'm driving. It's like I should
I
not
know,
be the actual captain of a boat. I should pay somebody to do that so I can just like enjoy it.
yeah, no, there's well, and the thing about boating is there is so much to learn. I was
Mhm.
talking to somebody, a boater, recently, and he said, "Yeah, they say it takes you 7 years to get to know your boat." And I was like, "That makes me feel a lot better because I've only been on this boat for about 8 months, and I have a lot to learn." So, but it's really cool. I'm learning things that I never would have thought about learning before.
Hmm.
So it's a fun hobby also.
Yeah. How have you, right, how have you noticed, because I don't think anybody can go through any change like that and it not affect how you work and how you do your thing. So have you noticed yet how it has informed your teaching or how you run your business?
You know, honestly, what I've found in the last, my partner George and I had been planning on moving onto a boat for a long time.
Hmm.
But the marinas here all have waiting lists to get what are called liveaboard slips.
Hmm.
And there's just something about it. I just care a lot less about whatever things are supposed to be or whatever things should be. Like, I'm like, screw it, I live on a boat. Like, I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want, you know? And I've been really living into that in the last, not just since I moved in, but really the last, since the pandemic started. So, and I don't think I'm alone. I think everybody is like, you know what, I'm done with the BS. Let's figure out what really matters in life and go for that. And so that's the biggest thing is I just care a lot less about pissing people off. And I care a lot more about making sure that people have access to music if they want it. So
Hmm.
so I guess that's just kind of peeled away the give a dams. You know? I don't know
Yeah.
what you're looking for there, but that's kind of what my journey's been. It's kind of interesting.
No, I think I can see that because, you kind of have like rebranded yourself or your brand has emerged as the salty voice teacher, and so salt gives flavor. It also gives some spice, So just kind of watching how that has emerged for you over the last year or so has been kind of fun to watch because it's like you're just like, yeah, kind of like flying your flag everywhere. And it's like so unapologetic and fun to watch. And so that's one reason why I was real excited to talk to you today. You know, I'm going to try to keep the pirate puns to a minimum, but I cannot guarantee that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But, um,
No need. Let them.
but right, I'm a lover of puns, but, so like I was thinking of all the things, like all the stodgy pedagogy, that we can make walk the plank, and, all the, but still finding our anchors and goods, all of that stuff. So tell me a little bit about like how that brand came about for you and why it's resonating so much. I think I know, but I would love to hear from your own mouth why you think it fits you so well.
You know, I this might not surprise you. I tend to be opinionated. I consider myself opinionated in a way that helps people, right? Like, don't put up with the BS. Don't listen to all the BS that people tell you about what you can and can't do. Like, own your. I'm trying not to curse as much on your videos as I curse on my own, but that's the other thing. I have a filthy mouth. I am a sailor through and through. But that's really what it came down to. And what really solidified it for me is I went to a few things. I'm really sick of voice teachers and people in general just telling people like, this is what you should be doing when you're singing. This
Hmm.
is what your body should be feeling. This is what breathing has to look like. And it's like, stop.
Hmm.
Quit it. Because you don't know what singing's gonna feel like for someone.
Hmm.
You don't know what breathing's gonna feel like for someone. And these one size fits all cues on posture and breathing and alignment, it's just all BS. It's just not true. And 20 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe we thought it was, but we know better now. We
Right.
know, right?
Hmm.
Evidence based at the beginning. We know that's not how bodies work. And all of the shoulds that we're putting on people take them out of their own bodies and take them out of their own experiences, which fosters mistrust in themselves and in their bodies, and that's a problem. And honestly, I'm just to get personal, I started doing. I am historically a yo-yo dieter. I've been up and down 50 and 60
Hmm.
pounds quite a few times in my life, at least three, which seems like quite a few. And last year I said, screw it, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to be fat. I'm going to be healthy. And I'm going to stop worrying about every little thing that I do. And that led me to intuitive eating. And I have been talking with a nutritionist. And it's a yet another way in our world that we are taught not to trust ourselves. You're not really hungry. Like, bitch, I'm hungry. Like, I'm gonna eat. You know?
I had one of those days yesterday where like, yeah. And I'm like,
Yeah.
drinking water is not going to fool my stomach. No.
No, exactly. And you know, the science doesn't back up diet culture, right? Diet culture. So we've got diet culture telling us what our bodies should be feeling, telling us that we need to wrangle our bodies into submission, regardless of what we think. You know, we've got the world telling feelings we can't share emotions, and you're not really feeling what you think you're feeling. And this is especially problematic for women. And then with singing, you should do this, you should do this. And so this whole journey I've been on has been like, screw you. Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what my body is feeling. Don't tell me what singing feels like to me. I need to find this out for myself, and I want to help other people find out what that looks and feels like for themselves. So that is my focus, helping singers turn inwards so that they can begin to listen to what their bodies are telling them, regardless of what it is, you know, singing, eating, feeling, because we're told to not acknowledge our feelings so often, but to help people figure out what that looks like for themselves. And the beautiful thing about singing and working with beginners is when people start to trust themselves, you're empowering them not only to take more risks as a singer, but to trust themselves as a human more. So
Yeah,
that was a long answer, Heather.
that's okay. No, I resonate with that because, you know, I've been on my own health journey for like the last 6 months, particularly, sorry, my cat just jumped on the table, making everything shake. You may hear her yell at me too. She's very opinionated.
Love it.
Like I've been on my own health journey in the last 6 months or so, you know, and, you know, specifically looking at, you know, my blood sugar and working on that. And she just jumped down again, everything's shaking. But, you know, and gosh, it is, you know, because like we get messages, whether they're implied or explicit, that if something is wrong, it's your fault. And therefore, you need to like basically beat yourself into submission in order to fix the problem. And I worked with a fantastic nutritionist who was really, really helpful in, you know, giving me tools to be able to, you know, do what I need to do to really, you know, work with my body the way that it, you know, it wants, because I want to be healthy and sassy for as long as I possibly can. Like I've got a niece and a nephew and I want to annoy them. I want to be the crazy aunt, you know, until they have their own children, you know, if they choose to do that. And so, you know, if I'm going to do that, I do need to take care of myself. But I know that genetics play into that. I know that, you know, culture plays into that, food culture. I love food, love food. Yeah, it's great.
I love food.
I have more cookbooks, you know, than is reasonable for one person, you know, you know, it's just, you know, so, but gosh, how true is that too with my singing? It's like, I mean, most of the lessons that I remember having, you know, were all about focusing on the things that weren't working. We never concentrated on the things that were working. And so me just personally, that translated into a deep insecurity in myself as to what, you know, what singing should be. And because I'm always I'm hunting for the wrong. I'm never like sinking into the right. And I'm really trying to change that mindset because boy, that is deep in me, you know, just trying to change that.
Yes, and a thing too.
Yeah.
I have lots of scars, internal scars from academia, and it took me a long time to break out of that. It took me a long time to break out of that. So
yeah.
So I'm not saying that that's necessarily how you felt about it. Like there were a lot of things I loved about it, but there's so unhealthy behavior. Hey, Forte Performance Beauty. Dr. Abby is listening and watching. Dr. Abby is fabulous, by the way. She's the PT.
Awesome.
So But yeah, so I'm glad you're working through that journey. And I love a reframe. I love
Mhm.
a reframe. So when you're in a, you know, when you're singing or whatever, working with a student and you focus on the wrong, like, oh, something had to go right. Let's look at this a little bit differently. Let's, you
Mhm.
know, there's always something to celebrate. There's always something to
Yep.
celebrate. And sometimes that's
Yeah.
just having the guts to take a risk that fails. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, you did. You just felled the hell out of that. Like, yep, now let's get back up and try again.
Mhm. Yeah, when I ask, I try really hard with my voice students. This is why I love working with beginners too. And I especially like I have a real special place in my heart for like church choirs because church choirs tend to be full of amateur musicians, you know, and that's what so I love them. But I have a three-part, you know, like feedback loop that I do all the time. And like I always ask them, what do you think went well first? And then, you know, and then follow it up with, if you had another shot, what would you like to try again? You know, and then what's something else that went well? So we're trying to identify at least twice as many things that went well as we want to fix. And I love that if we can instill that in beginners from the get-go, you know, rather than just trying to break everything down and rebuild it. How arrogant is that thought? But you know, but and also giving my clients, my students, the tools to be able to analyze themselves. So it's like I'm not the expert in the room; they are the expert in their own voice and in their own bodies. I just happen to be the guide at this particular moment. You know, it's like I've been a little further down the road, so I can help you get, you know, down the road, and I can offer some suggestions. But I find, especially with adults who have had a history of lessons before, changing that mindset is like, whew, that takes a while.
It's hard. And that's when I love using the word reframe or reset with those clients
Mhm.
because it's like, okay, that's what voice lessons were once upon a time.
Mhm.
But that's not what we're doing now. Let's reframe this as a different experience altogether. Because it's so hard once you get into that path, like we're in the voice lessons, this is how it works. It's like, nope, that is
Mhm.
how it did work at one point. And sometimes you just need to change the name of something, you know,
Mhm.
like to be able to think about it differently. So, but yeah, and God, who wants to take voice lessons like that anymore? No, I mean, no
Mhm.
shade to those teachers that do want to teach like that. Like, I'm just not interested.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm not having fun, then I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna go do something else, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm with you.
Yeah.
I love working with amateur choirs. Love it. I miss the fact that I don't really have a choir right now,
Mhm.
and since the pandemic, but whatever. um,
Stupid pandemic. Yeah.
stupid pandemic, you know. So
Mhm.
yeah, empowering
Yeah.
people, man. That's what it's all about. Empowering
Mhm.
people to help them realize that you're frozen. There
Yeah.
you are.
Okay. Yeah, it glitched for a second. We've got weather coming in, and sometimes, you know, it's just like the universe just glitches when, you know, it's really windy outside today. Um, sorry, that was probably my internet. But I think our industry is changing. I think again, the pandemic probably accelerated this a bit, you know, and it's taking singing out of kind of those I hate the term, but the ivory tower of the academy, you know, where, and, you know, the academy is a very, here come the puns again, you know, a very, very large ship with a very tiny rudder, you know, and so it tends to move very slowly because it has traditions that it's upholding, whether, again, it's implicit or implied. So so the academy is kind of the slowest ship, you know, and in the meantime we've got all these independent teachers that are in speedboats, you know, that are flying around, really changing the industry right now. And it's so exciting because no longer is it only classical is the best way to go. You can learn any genre from any teacher in the world. And I think our industry is really starting to embrace the many paths to the same goal, which is getting people to sing, doing a very human activity. And it doesn't have to be the best. It doesn't have to be even for performance, just sing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason people want to sing. It feels good. It
Yeah.
releases the happy chemicals in our brain. It helps us breathe more deeply. It just, as my dad says, singing is soul stuff. He's right. It is soul stuff. It feeds your soul. And that's why singing in choirs are so much fun, because, creating community and all those cool health benefits you read about, being in community with singing. It's just great.
It is great. I think one of the coolest things I read, it's been a couple of years ago now, is that, they did some studies where people in choirs, like their heartbeats synced as they were singing together. It's just so cool to think about that. Yeah, that's the kind of evidence-based pedagogy that I love, just to observe how naturally things happen, in the body and in the brain, especially, and how that can inform our pedagogy, not necessarily, all of the minutia and everything, which, frankly, I can have fun getting lost in those weeds too. But, like when we were learning how, just how it works, it's so fun. It's so much fun.
I agree.
Yeah.
Singing is cool.
So what are because one of the things that you're kind of trying to do, and we've talked about it a little bit already, is, like debunking myths, or, trying to kind of, bust out of those boxes that I think, again, 20 years ago when I was coming up through undergrad, this is the way things were taught, and, that there was a right way to do things. And I think we know better now. But at the time, I believed that because that's what I was taught. And I believe that's what my teachers thought and, were taught as well. And so, learning different things and learning differently has really impacted how I teach and how I approach singing. Of course, it could not have not changed it. But what is your favorite box to bust?
There's a couple, but the main one is that whole, you don't want to hear me sing.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I'm like, what? Don't tell me what I want. I want you to sing. If you want to sing, like if you don't want to sing, then don't sing. But if you want to sing and the only reason you're not singing is because you believe at some level that you are not worthy for whatever reason, it's like, well, I'm going to call bullshit on that. Like, you have a voice, you have every right to this, using your singing voice as a means of expression, even if that's whatever that expression is. And so that's my biggest one. It's like, stop it. You can sing. And then the other one is that one size fits all rules are effective. Like that, we still see a lot of that because people teach what they know, right? So, and part of the basis for this debunking the BS stuff is that people aren't maliciously giving advice or, rules to people. It's all well-intentioned, and it's plenty of the stuff that I've done in the past too, because like you, this is what we knew, right? So this is me trying to atone a bit for bad advice I've given anyone at any point, and also just open up the field for conversation about it. Like, maybe that's not really. Maybe that's not the way it really is. So that's those are my, what's it called, soapboxes.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That first one, I have, especially being a church musician. It's like one of my water pistols at the gates of hell kind of thing. It's like, particularly speaking from a worship context, for people to feel self-conscious in worship is one of the saddest things for me. Just to be able to encourage people that, their voice is valuable regardless of what it sounds like. Their voice is valuable because it is theirs and it is unique. And when their voice is silenced, we are the worse for it, not the better. But people assume that we are better for not having for not hearing them. And that is just, it's so, so wrong. You know, and almost every time I would, you know, if someone would say that to me, you know, like, you don't want to hear me sing. And I'm like, well, yes, I do. Who told you that I wouldn't want to hear you sing? And they would almost always have someone that told them at one time, usually a parent or a teacher in their past, that that laid that seed for them. And boy, if I could go back and have some stern talkings to to those people again, I think most of them were probably well intentioned, trying to keep their kids from being embarrassed. You know, but that has carried, you know, that's um, a weight that they have to then carry through the rest of their life that is usually not true.
Yeah. And honestly, I think it's stealing a means of expression.
Yeah.
And that's just criminal. In my opinion, I mean, you're right. Somebody that they trusted told them at some point, your voice is not worthy. So don't use it. It's like, what? No. Who do I have to shake? Who do I have to shake to get out of your head?
Yeah.
So.
But it's gosh, if I could just wave a wand or sprinkle fairy dust over the world, I would get rid of that thought like immediately. But you know, but also with your second, you know, thought, you know, we're doing the best we can with what we have, usually, and the knowledge that we have and the way that we were taught. But being able to learn how to do better as we go along, I hope is one way that our industry is going to keep changing in the next few years.
Well, I love that Abby put in the creative wounds of Brene Brown. Yeah, the creative wounds are deep. And you know, here's the other thing, that why do we believe that pretty sounds are the only worthy sounds, right? Because that's usually what people are talking about when they say they can't sing. My voice isn't pretty enough. And, you know, talk about another myth to bust. Like, well, what singers do you listen to that you would describe as pretty? Because I can tell you, like, most of the singers on the radio, I'm not going to describe them as pretty, but I might describe them as emotive or passionate or soulful or rich. But pretty, like, no. All of these sounds we can make lend themselves to more emotion, more emotional singing. So that's the other thing. Like, who said pretty is, like, the end-all be-all? Because Bob Dylan, you can accuse him of a lot of things, but having a pretty voice, not one of them. You know? Not
to mention, it's so subjective and culturally based that you know, it assumes that what your culture is qualifies as pretty is accurate and is the right way to be pretty. Where, you know, I always tell people, Peking opera is so different from our, you know, the Chinese opera is so different from our Western forms of singing. And I don't know that, you know, most people would call it pretty singing outside of that culture. But, you know, who are we to say that it is or not? You know, it's different.
The Bulgarian women's choir, oh my gosh, talk about powerful. Pretty? No. Powerful? Ooh, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, the harmonies they create, but the tones that they sing with it are not, they're not traditionally Western ideas of beauty, but holy crap, it's cool. If you haven't listened to them, like, check it out. It is awesome. So.
Yeah, I'm a fan of, like, tube and throat singing. I got the chance to travel to Mongolia a few years ago, and to be able to hear some of that live, like, there's nothing like it. To hear that actually done, like, right in front of your face. It's the coolest thing ever, you know. But, like, I remember this one woman in particular was singing almost in a bass range with, you know, the harmonics that she was going, and whew, man, again, maybe not the prettiest sound ever, but one of the coolest things I've ever heard in my life. Like, I would listen to that so many times because it's just so cool.
Yeah, and you know, the more options we have of sounds we can make, like, the more options we have for ways to express ourselves. Like, it's cool.
It is cool, you know. I'm reminded, I teach a composition class. I work with a homeschool music co-op on Fridays. And so I've got a couple choirs with that, and I teach a composition class, which to me is hilarious. Um, because don't tell anybody, I don't know what I'm doing. But I've got one kid on there.
Just one step ahead. That's all you need.
Right. That's exactly it. Don't tell them. But but I've got one kiddo in there that is very uncomfortable doing anything outside of the Western tradition. He's a great kid, and I have drop kicked him into some other things, like making him do other styles, and like we did some found object music, like you've got to write a piece for something you find in your house, and this kid that loves the violin, and he's a phenomenal player. He's going to do great things. But boy, just watching him squirm is hilarious and really fun for me. But just being able to introduce him and challenge him, because even if he never writes anything like that again, it's going to inform the way that he does his traditional classical style, that he loves and he connects with. Because I don't think you can learn anything like that and not have it influence unless you just completely shut yourself off. And he's not. He is, he's doing the thing grudgingly sometimes. But, just being able to explore different things. I think that's so helpful for singers and for teachers, too, to learn other things. Like the first time I ever heard throat singing, I went and figured out how does this work? I can't do it, but I figured out what are they doing? That's where voice science really helped me, because I could figure out what are they doing? Just to have that expanded experience is so much fun, so challenging.
Yeah, variety. I'll be a dork here. Variety is the spice of life. More options equals better.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Sorry, I'm talking a lot because you're hitting on all my soapboxes too. So yeah, one of these days I'm gonna have to come to the marina, and we're gonna open a bottle of rum, which is one of my favorite spirits, and enjoy ourselves. Yeah. So this again just asking explicitly what we have been saying, but what's something you've learned while you've done all of this new work with your new branding and all that stuff that has made you a better singer?
Honestly, I'm taking courses myself, learning. So I'm a classically trained soprano that has taken a ton of pedagogy courses to learn how to teach in other styles. I've done, contemporary music theater, blah, 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 all that stuff. And the number Sounds of Sea Lions. Check out my page for the. They were going crazy this morning. It was hilarious. Anyway, so I am studying. I've taken some classes with Jess Baldwin, True Colors, Voice and Artist. I think that's what it's called. And I am playing with my voice in a way that it was never. I was never encouraged to, and now I feel like I can. Vocally, I can do whatever I want. I don't have to follow the rules of classical singing where it's all about beautiful tone and blah, blah, blah. Now I'm playing with sounds that I've never really played with for myself. I've led plenty of clients through those sounds. And so now I feel like it doesn't matter what I do. I can do whatever I want. And that's not something I've ever felt in my life before. And I want people to feel that way with their own voices, that it is something that they can play with and discover what they can do. So that's, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the other thing. I just had the desire to ask myself what I really want. Again, coming up in academia, it didn't matter what I wanted. I had to sing a certain way and look a certain way and present a certain way. And so I feel like I finally broken up with academia. It's it's for real this time. It's not, I'm not going back to academia.
Yeah. It's not me, it's you.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So, anyway.
Well, you've kind of said it too, but I'll ask if there's anything else that, through this has also made you a better teacher.
All of it. Every single thing I do makes me a better teacher. Every experience I've ever had makes me a better teacher, even if it's a terrible experience, and I've had plenty of those. And every time I make a bad sound, it makes me a better teacher. And, you know, I don't really think sounds are good or bad. I just, a bad, every time I make an ugly sound, it makes me a better teacher because it makes me understand more what making certain sounds feels like in my body. And it's, everything's an opportunity. Everything's an opportunity.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's so valuable too. I do that a lot. And I'm not doing this work right now, but I have in the past, particularly with people who've had vocal injuries, you know, doing some habilitative work after a vocal injury. And boy, the value statements that tend to be thrown on their singing is like, this is, you know, it sounds bad. It's like all the stuff. So being able to, okay, it's like, we're going to make terrible sounds on purpose. So we just break that, you know, it's like, and we're going to explore and we're going to feel what that feels like so that when it feels better, you have that comparison. If we're only like going for things that feel good all of the time without having a reference for what doesn't feel good, and sometimes that's like making dangerous, bad, whatever sounds. It's like, you know, scream for once. You're not going to die. You know, and just feel what it feels like so that you have that point of reference.
Yeah, you're getting
so helpful.
Giving yourself vocal context when you do that. I'm all about that. Like, you know what you want to do? No? Okay, well, we often know what we don't want to do, so let's do that.
Yeah.
And then, oh, we have context. Okay, we know that's not what we want. Well, let's try this other thing then. Yeah. No, I think that's so important. And yes, people come to me afraid to make certain sounds because I don't want to damage my voice. Yes. Like, I think we're going to be okay, you know? Yeah. Vocal injuries are not a sign of weakness. Like, that's just,
no, they happen.
Yeah,
they just happen.
They do. I've hemorrhaged both of my vocal folds at the same time. It sucks.
Yeah.
But it happens.
And you live through it.
That made me a better teacher. You know, like everything I experience. So.
Yeah. Okay. So one more in that line of thinking, like, how has all of this made you a better business owner?
I have started just owning my shit. Like, I'm no longer afraid to be who I am in front of people. And again, that's a lot of that is my breaking up with academia. For a long time, I was like, I have to be, and I worked in churches for a long time too, and I just really felt like I had to fit into this mold, and I just don't. It's just not who I am, and I never really felt like I was being authentic to myself. And now, like, now that I feel like I can just do whatever I want, you know? Like, I can be who I am. I can be stupid with pink hair and tattoos and like, but I'm still really smart. I still know a lot. That doesn't make me a bad teacher, right? You know? And for a long time in academia, that's the kind of attitude that fostered. So now when I feel like I can be more authentically myself, I feel like I can guide my clients to be more authentically themselves as well. And I think that draws people to me. So the people that want to learn from someone like me, right? Obviously not for everyone. Oh, right. Thanks, Abby. She's my voice student and I'm her client as well. And we also partner to work with singers. So she's biased. Thanks, Abby.
Yeah, I think, again, that's one of the benefits of our expanded online world now is that you are looking for a teacher, whether you're a teacher yourself or just a singer. You're not confined to just your locale anymore. You can really find the best person to work with. You know, as long as you can find a time to meet online, you know, you can do it. And I think it's wonderful. I think it's a fantastic thing for our industry. And yes. I am, again, silver linings in a big bowl of suck. But that's one of them, I think. And I know that part is not going to go away. And I think that is to our benefit, both as singers, as teachers, as clients. I think that is a wonderful thing.
I agree. like Jess Baldwin is in Ohio. That's who I'm working
Hmm.
with. It's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Bye, Abby. um, yeah, I agree. I like how it's
Yeah.
opened up. And honestly, for folks that don't live in Seattle, you might not know that driving here sucks. It takes a million hours to get anywhere. So if I can do something online, that means I don't have to drive somewhere. Yes, please.
Yeah.
So I'm all about that. I think most of my
Yeah.
clients are too. Some of them want to come back in person, but a lot of them are like, no, no, we're cool.
Yeah.
We move
Like
outside.
I have not had anybody in my house except for like my parents and my sister and my best friend. She comes for sleepover sometimes.
Yeah.
But like for like 2 years, and it's amazing. I love it. And so like I may never go back to in-person teaching in my house ever again because just not having people traipsing in and out of my house all the time is terrible.
Yeah, no,
I have to clean.
no, yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I've never wanted to teach out of my house, so that's not something
Mhm.
that I do. But even I do want to bring people into my studio. I have the most adorable little studio and storefront. So eventually, I want humans to come in here. But
Mhm.
oh wait, we're still on a mask mandate here in Washington.
Oh, really?
We had maybe 1 month last summer
Hmm.
between the vaccines and Delta that we weren't on a mask mandate, but we're all back. We're Yeah. So until we are no longer on a mask mandate, I'm not even going to consider,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, in Missouri, it's the Wild West, so it's like
yeah,
like every person for themselves.
yeah.
So.
Washington is not the norm. Like it's been much more conservative than other
Mhm.
states. My family in North Carolina, like I went home for Thanksgiving and I was like, why is no one wearing masks? Why is everyone breaking the law? And then I was like, oh, there's not a mask mandate here. It didn't even occur to me.
Mhm.
So we're kind of in a bubble out here, which,
Yeah,
which I appreciate actually.
yeah. Like I'm still masking everywhere I go because my lungs are my job. So
Yeah,
um,
exactly. Exactly.
right. And my sister's a nurse in the COVID ICU at one of our hospitals locally. So she keeps me informed of like she tells me sometimes you should just stay home for a while. I'm like, okay, I'll do that.
Oh, bless her. I mean, that's
Mhm.
our hospital workers are saints having to. Hmm,
Yeah,
yeah. Anyway,
yeah. It's a thing. It's been a
yeah.
whole thing. Um, Anyway, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would love to say or tell us about?
I don't know. I think we were pretty thorough.
Just kind of bust down our entire industry and rebuild it from the ground up. No biggie.
I love breaking stuff down, but I really love building stuff up too. So
Okay. That's what I'm trying to do. It's like I'm trying to introduce a new way to do, basically a master's degree. If you don't want to go back to school, hit me up. I
yeah,
can teach you what I know, and if I don't know it, we'll figure it out.
no, I love it. I think that's great. I think our industry needs it. I think now more than ever we have, young singers, young voice teachers have access to this type of
Mhm.
education that like you're offering. That, in my opinion, is much more valuable than an actual master's degree.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna say that. Like, I loved my master's degree, but it didn't make me a better teacher.
I
Everything
would,
after, after
yeah.
after
Um,
doctorate.
there's a whole lot, and I had a great experience on, in my master's and in my doctorate. It's neither or none of them were a perfect experience. You always get, you take the good, you take the bad, the facts of life, blah blah blah. But gosh, I would have saved a whole lot of time if I didn't have to do all the hoop jumping and all the politicking and all the classes that, it's like as soon as I was done, the textbook went in the garbage, that kind of thing, just to fulfill the requirements. And so being able to just, like, let's get rid of that because it's not helpful. And just learn what you want to know, learn what, is going to make you a better teacher. And the rest of it can, if you want to do that, go ahead, go for it, because it takes all kinds. Um, but there's
Yeah,
not just one way to do it anymore.
exactly. And it doesn't matter where you are. People can take
Hmm.
courses from anywhere in the world. So I think it's so important. I think it's so important that we're moving in that direction
Yeah,
because
I agree.
I want that information out there so that young teachers
I'm not going to get bored. I'm also not going to get it all done. Let's just be honest.
Accurate.
I'll do my best. All right, Liz, how can people follow you?
At Fraser Voice Studio on Instagram and Facebook. There's no I in my name, Frazer. My voice classes, Feet First Vocal Program, jumping in feet first. I do quarterly classes, so if you're interested in working with me online, working with some of my other clients, then hit me up. I got some spaces in my beginner class starting in April.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was so much fun to talk with you. Thank you for making time for me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching too. I appreciate it. And follow Liz, follow me, and we'll try to, give you good pedagogy stuff on the regular and maybe sea lion.
Yes. Yes, definitely at least once a week. That's my goal.
All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.